Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to praise OP10, not to bury it. The evil that normal and true mode do lives after them. The good of ultimate Vault Hunter mode is often interred, so let it not be with UVHM and the noble OP levels. If you've seen my older videos, you know I'm a big fan of ultimate Vault Hunter mode and OP levels. I believe many of the common criticisms of these harder modes are objectively false. Ultimate Vault Hunter mode is totally brutal, man. You gotta weld a bee shield to yourself just to tickle these bullet sponges, dude. And don't even think about playing without a grog nozzle, it just ain't possible, man. No, Ultimate Vault Hunter mode is not hard. You just suck. I'm just kidding, you don't suck. But UVHM and OP levels really aren't as punishing or as restrictive as people make them out to be. In addition to making build videos and guides, I thought the best way to prove my point would be to do an extreme challenge run of the main story. What will said challenges be? Thanks for asking. In this run, I will not be allowed to use Slag. No Slag weapons, no Slag skills, nothing. This means I will lose access to another one of my best tools, Death Blossom, because each volley of kunai has a small chance to Slag. I will be banning the skill entirely. Although Slag from other sources such as barrels and Mordecai is fair game. No red text gear. If it has red text, I must say next.
I'm Allison, I'm 19, and I'm a personal trainer, but I don't want to have to whip these guys into shape. Even if this guy isn't a professional basketball player, I'm hoping he's hung like one. If these guys don't clean their teeth, it probably means they have smelly balls. Next.
Man, what happened to this country? We don't make art like that anymore. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the challenges. Yeah, no Slag, no red text gear, no badass rank, but that's still not enough for me. My masochism knows no bounds. So I will limit what would be my best strategy, pre-stacking critical ascension. Pre-stacking is when you use a low-level sniper rifle to artificially gain stacks of CA to easily melt enemies. Even with the restrictions on this run, this strategy would trivialize many encounters, so I'm only going to allow myself 3 pre-stacking lifelines during the whole run. Honestly, this run started off really easily. Until Boom Boom, that is. I took like 5 deaths until I was able to kill Boom from cover so Boom couldn't hit me with Big Bertha. With Boom out of the picture, I could focus on killing Boom without Boom annoying me. Now at this point, you may have noticed I'm using gear I already had. To tell you the truth, I don't like doing these full playthrough challenge runs. I like farming for gear even less. So to cut down on the monotony of doing so, I have simply decided to use the non-unique gear I had legitimately obtained already before I reset the playthrough. This will allow me to progress more quickly as I won't have to farm gear, and it will allow me to showcase just how good non-unique gear is. I have always said non-uniques are better than people give them credit for, and this will allow me to prove it. Now this challenge run is essentially a remake of the original. Those of you who saw it may remember, it was similar to this run. No Slag, no red text gear, and no bar, but I did that run at level 80. Well, I actually used Gibbed to enforce a negative 5 level debuff to all of my gear, meaning that while enemies were level 80, all of my gear was stuck at level 75. In that run, I did farm for the gear I used during it, and it was a pain. Honestly, these runs were about equally difficult, so playing on OP10 is about the same as playing at level 80 with severely underleveled gear. How about this? Once I hit 10,000 subs, I'll do another challenge run where I beat OP10 without skills, and I'll farm for my gear in that run. It really shouldn't be too bad, as I would have access to broken stuff like bee-hawking and Slag. The hard part will just be getting to it in the first place. You also might have noticed that at times, some of the visual pollution and damage numbers weren't showing up when I was landing shots. This was a vestige from my ill-fated first channel. I made some weapon review shorts at the time, and to help the visuals look better, I used the community patch to disable certain elements of visual pollution. This did not affect gameplay at all, and I was only intending to use the functionality of the community patch that disables cutscenes. Yes, this footage has been sitting on my PC for a very long time. I realized eventually and re-enabled the visual pollution, so it didn't really matter, but I just thought I would mention it in case you guys noticed and wondered what that was. While UVHM is not as hard as people make it out to be, one thing that makes it feel so difficult at first is Captain Flynt. Big Bertha being able to kill you through health gate doesn't really help, especially when you're new to the harder mode and this is the first mode that really expects you to engage with the tools at your disposal. These are fairly tough bosses to deal with. And wow, we are several minutes in and I haven't even gotten to Flynt yet. Alright, we gotta pick up the pace. So I won't be able to cover every death or gameplay section for the sake of brevity, but on to Captain Flynt. He does have one major weakness: gravity. Captain Flynt can be knocked out of the arena with executes or grenades, and once you do so, his AI bugs out and he doesn't attack you. Now I could have pre-stacked critical ascension, but using this method will allow me to save one of my 3 CA lifelines. Luckily, I'm a temporal god, so I can fast forward this part. But anyway, after dispatching Flynt, we arrive at the shores of the Three Horns Divide as a freshly minted salty dog. We grab a car, pick up a complimentary pimentaco, and make for Sanctuary. But first, we gotta go save Corporal Reese. After dispatching a few goons, Reese tells us to wake him when he's off Pandora. Unfortunately for him, his death is scripted, so no new you for him. Well, we still have to get into Sanctuary, so we pick his corpse for the power core and head on. I'm sure this story beat will be completely irrelevant down the road. We finally link up with Pandora's finest. Open the damn gate!
You'll never take me alive, you robotic son bitch!
This gun doesn't seem to work.
I'm starving! I want to eat your babies!
Son, this might sting a bit.
This lab smells of bacon. Bacon is for sycophants and products of incest.
Only to discover that their leader has been kidnapped. So we head on over to Frostburn Canyon and link up with the Firehawk. And wouldn't you know it, it's our old buddy Lilith. Lil, your secret lair kinda sucks. Dudes are breaking in everywhere. But anyway, we dispatch the bandits, yeet some of the more annoying ones, and of course die because Lilith steals our second wins. Lilith, I know you know about reviving, because I literally just revived you. But whatever, we finish off the remaining enemies and Lilith teleports us a few feet away. I'm sure this story beat will be completely irrelevant down the road. Now, on to rescuing Roland. To do so, we need to break into Bloodshot Stronghold, but first we need a Psycho Murderer car. Since there are no Cybertrucks in this game, we'll have to settle for a Bandit Technical. You know what that means, montage time. Alright, now that we bypass their high-level security, we have to deal with Bad Maw. Unfortunately for him, I'm a black belt in Yeet Kune Do. But unfortunately for me, I also yeeted the key past a death wall. After trying to reach the key but having no success, I do some googling and realize that yeeting Bad Maw like this will actually hard lock your progress because there's literally nothing you can do to recover the key. So I'm literally gonna have to start all the way over. Nah, I'm totally kidding, you can just leave the area and come back. So we make Bloodshot Stronghold earn its namesake and finally link up with our competent leader, Roland. Interesting graffiti, I'm sure that's not foreshadowing or anything.
Good to finally meet you in person.
After meeting Roland, he is immediately captured for a second time, so we get our cardio in and catch up with the Warden, who, for the first time in the history of the multiverse, actually manages to kill me. Well, that's embarrassing. This humiliation will not go unchecked. All of robot kind will face my wrath. Warden's stupid buddies are just the beginning, and they don't even stand a chance. I gleefully rip robots limb from limb, relishing in my enemies' cries. My only regret is that my metal foes have no blood to be spilled. It gives me joy knowing that robots feel all pain in slow motion and in great detail. By the time I'm done, Pandora will be the biggest scrap pile in the 6 galaxies. I'm glad I don't have access to Slag or Red Text Gear. All it means is that I can pump even more rounds into these alloy assholes. The only thing that rises faster than me when I'm slaughtering robots is my stacks of critical ascension. But yeah, anyway. We're done here and it's off to the Tundra Express. Then it's time to check in with Birdecai and his little birdie friend, Bloodwing. Hey Birdecai, how's Bloodwing?
So dead.
Aw, don't say that, I'm sure she'll be fine. We link up with Tina, who's gonna help us hijack a train. We grab her badonkadonks.
Why'd you have a seat?
Calm down, Chris Hansen, that's what she calls her explosives. The explosives manage to stop the train right at the entrance to a travel gate. How convenient. I'm a little worried about Wilhelm. Apparently he's incredibly tough. I believe in my skills though. Okay, I was gonna do a joke here about Wilhelm not being as tough as they said, but he's actually pretty damn difficult if I can't use Slag or Red Text Gear. Critical Ascension is carrying me here, but even it isn't enough to finish him off, and I have to keep scavenging for ammo. Eventually I just run out, and I'm forced to swap to different weapon types to finish the fight. That was actually pretty hard. I mean, lot work. Bro was a certified pussy. I'm sure I defeated him simply because I'm very good and for no other reason. Anyway, we pick up a super special power core and it's off to Sanctuary. We put it in and...
Lowering Sanctuary's shields, Jack.
Well, that's not good. At least Roland has managed to go 10 minutes without being captured or incapacitated. Okay, well, spoke too soon. So we go get some iridium to Lilith, and she teleports us away from Sanctuary in a way that creates an exciting gameplay and narrative sequence. How convenient.
Sorry, kid. That was an accident. I'll see you on the other side, though, I promise. Hit it, Scooter!
Catch a ride!
You guys ever notice how the quest Rising Action leads to the Sanctuary Hole, which leads to the Caustic Cavern, which contains oozing discharge? Coincidence? Possibly, but we're talking about Gearbox here. Now, I'll be honest, I completely forgot that the Gluttonous Thresher was a thing. And I completely forgot that he can be this difficult. I've never really struggled with him this much before, because I guess during normal gameplay, maybe he's not that bad. But without Slag or red text gear, he was bodying me. I died over and over, and this quickly became the hardest part of the run. So I took many deaths here, and then I remembered that I have technology on my side, specifically Tediore technology. And with the power of the Tediore Plasmacaster, I'm able to deal some decent damage to him even without Slag, and we're finally able to take him out, even though again he's slapping me around. And like I said, I was struggling. I was considering using one of my pre-stacking lifelines here, but I got the kill, and it's time to head to Overlook. And for the first time, I remembered to stop by the fast travel station so I don't have to walk all the way back. Maybe I am growing as a person. Alright, for this gameplay section, we'll do one final montage. Okay, this Constructor version 3 was actually bodying me. Even at almost 50 stacks of critical ascension, my corrosive Garnet Pushka is struggling to put in work. I get downed several times before I'm finally able to finish him. But then it's back to Sanctuary, but there's no time to rest. Handsome Jack captured Bloodwing and we gotta go rescue him. Now, for this fight, I decided to use one of my CA pre-stacking lifelines, since I still had all 3 left, and Bloodwing can be pretty tough. I just clear out all the enemies and break the legs of the last remaining loader. This will make it easy to pre-stack off of him. And of course, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy pumping rounds into this reprehensible robot. After I get enough stacks, I pick up some ammo and head back to the arena. Bloodwing can be a bit tricky, as the arena doesn't offer much cover, so attacks can be hard to avoid. But fortunately, some mobs will spawn during this fight, and I also chose to go with the Sniper Heart of the Ancients, since it will boost all sniper damage regardless of element, and I seem to have the best luck with non-elemental damage against Bloodwing. Eventually we bring Bloodwing down and...
Now I remember. Explosive! No!
Wow, Jack must have mained Mordecai in Borderlands 1 and had enough of Bloodwing shenanigans. There's no other explanation for that kind of rage. And honestly, it's kind of understandable. Now it's time to meet up with John Brick. Get it? Because like his name is Brick and Hyperion killed his dog, so he's like John... Okay, anyway. For this gameplay section, I relied a lot on my shotguns, the Ravager, and the Quad. The Topnia came in clutch for second wins as always, and I also made use of the Goliaths, making sure to enrage them at every opportunity to not only draw aggro, but also to help kill the other enemies. This sort of thing is what I really like about difficult games. They really force you to look at all the pieces on the board and figure out how to best make use of them. Easier games just don't offer that experience. Anyway, I'll also make extensive use of my Plasmacaster here, and for dealing with some of the really tough, tanky enemies who are easier to crit, I relied on the Rakel. The Rakel is an excellent sniper rifle. It does get overshadowed a bit by the Snider, but keep your eyes out for it. I have 2 gemstone versions, and they are really good, 2 of my favorite gemstones. A bit down the road, I'll list some of my favorite non-uniques maybe during a gameplay section, ones that are not only really good, but also my favorites that I recommend keeping an eye out for. And all snipers really aren't that bad either. You can see this one shreds these loaders up pretty easily, although the burst fire can be a bit hard to work around, but now it's time to break some beacons, making sure to...
Stay out of the target circles!
I really haven't struggled as much as I expected during this run, but this ultimate badass loader gave me a run for my money. I shoot his arms off, but then have no good way to damage him. Enemies this tough should not have health regen in my opinion, although I honestly like the weaker mobs having health regen as it puts a little bit of pressure on the player to be quick and efficient. But super tough enemies and bosses are just too punishing when they have health regen, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm doing a challenge run here, which is amplifying the issue. Luckily, Brick cornered this dude, and I was able to unload with my thinking. Alright, now we head to Opportunity, and it's time to take out Not Timothy. We loot his corpse, which has become a hobby, apparently. Then it's time to download some voice files so we can talk like a douchebag. Weird autocorrect by my brain or something. Okay, honestly, we can agree that Musk is a douchebag, right? Now you might say I'm not allowed to criticize him because he's a billionaire and I just have a small YouTube channel. And as much of a galaxy brain take as that is, at least I can say I didn't have to pay someone else to earn my world records. Then it's back to Sanctuary, where we have to convince Claptrap to help us storm the bunker. Roland is skeptical, but he doesn't know that I have the Robot Whisperer speech perk.
FYI, it may take some serious convincing to get Claptrap to hit 1,000 cuts.
Let's go to 1,000 cuts!
And we're off to the bunker, but first I'll let my intrusive thoughts win and take another death. Up to this point, this challenge run honestly has not been that difficult. I died a lot more than I usually do, and I had a couple of challenging encounters like the Gluttonous Thresher and the Ultimate Badass Loader, but I haven't really encountered any significant roadblocks that required problem solving like I expected. This part of the game is where the difficulty really ramps up though. These level 3 constructors are very tough. I'm able to get a lot of stacks of critical ascension, but the constructor is always able to kill me before I kill him. I was stuck at this section for a bit. I would get a few kills, die, get a few kills, and die again. Part of this is because of the increased difficulty, but I was also just being impatient at this point. In the end, I decided to just brute force it. I equipped my Sniper Heart of the Ancients for the extra damage and fight for your lifetime, and with critical ascension, I'm able to outlast the constructor. I juke the Hyperion soldiers out and continue on, making sure to
Stay out of the target circles!
There's no time to celebrate, however, as we encounter the Super Badass Constructor version 3. Wait, is there an ultimate badass version of this enemy? I really hope not. You can't slag these guys, can you? Or do they just not have a slag model? You know, I actually need to test that. Anyway, I'm able to get a lot of uninterrupted sniper shots off, allowing me to crank up the damage with critical ascension. I get harassed by mobs a bit, but I'm able to take them out and eventually get pushed back to the gate. But from here, I'm able to finish the constructor off. I have so many stacks of CA at this point that the rest of this map is trivial to clear. Bunker, bore, but we finally pushed all the way through to Control Core Angel, and I'm ready to confess my love for her.
I love you.
But she rejects me. Man, this game is more realistic than I thought. You know, for someone who has been essentially doing slave labor for years, Angel is looking pretty damn good. Wonder how she maintains her hairstyle. Alright, time for another mopping sequence. I think it would get stale if I just keep making jokes or doing montages, so for this section I'll explain the main strategies I've been employing and talk about some of the best non-unique gear in the game, and just kind of explain how I've been progressing, as I haven't really delved too deeply into that yet. So for non-unique class mods, the Tiny Tina alignment comms can be really good. Obviously for Zer0, stuff like the Chaotic Evil Rogue and the Chaotic Neutral Rogue are pretty popular, but for this run I mostly use the Chaotic Evil Rogue. Obviously I've been making a ton of use of critical ascension and sniper rifles. That has been my main strategy. But I've also been using a lot of shotguns, stuff like the Ravager, the Quad, for their great single shot damage, especially when boosted by one shot, one kill. For non-unique shields, I personally prefer Purple Turtle shields. In my opinion, they're the best non-unique shields for OP10 because they give you a good mix of overall shield stats, and then you can make the health reduction work in your favor because of how health gating works. Health gating is a mechanic where you can never be killed in this game in one shot. You basically are immortal if you're above half health. If you actually take lethal damage when you're above half health, you will gain like 1.2 seconds of invincibility, I think. And that's just enough time to react, right? In a lot of situations. That is based off a percentage, meaning that even if you're using a turtle shield to significantly lower your health, it's still just based off the percentage. So you get the good mix of overall shield stats, and then the health reduction can actually kind of work in your favor. So I really like Purple Turtle shields. The only thing is you got to make sure that they don't reduce your health to like 1 or 0, or maybe even 2. If it reduces it that low, then you'll just die as soon as you take damage. But anyway, I really like Purple Turtle shields. And then just a transfusion grenade for healing. I couldn't use a Slag version because I'm not allowed to use Slag, obviously. And then I have been using the E-Tech relics. Now, those are technically uniques, and in the title I said no uniques. But hey man, what can I say? I'm a bad boy. Dislike, unsubscribe, tell your mom. It's just how I roll. No, I'm just kidding, but you know, a lot of people consider them okay for runs like this. So I could have said no red text gear in the thumbnail, but I think that, you know, no uniques is more, people understand that better. You know, I think I was too harsh on Roland before. He kept getting captured or incapacitated, but he has proven to be a very capable... That's not good. So Roland gets killed, Lilith gets captured, and then we're off to one of the hardest parts of the game, Sawtooth Cauldron. Now honestly, I got pretty lucky here. I'll just speed up some of the footage and show I was able to pretty easily just run through this area. I was able to avoid most of the enemies, up until the 4 ambush commanders. Obviously they are mandatory to be killed, and I was pretty worried about them. I end up switching to my Ravager with my explosive relic, which it has a lot of stopping power. It would have been nice if I had a sniper comm with points boosting one shot, one kill. It could have really benefited some of my stuff like the Ravager and the Topnias here. The Topnias also put in a ton of great work in this run. But you can see that's mostly what I relied on to take the ambush commanders out. I just used cover, I tried to avoid the other enemies. I used my transfusion grenade to heal and to stagger the ambush commanders. And then I would just unload with either my Topnia or my Ravager. Although, of course, I did take a lot of deaths. Fortunately, they don't respawn, so you can just focus on each one at a time, and as long as you're able to take them out, you'll win eventually. Now you can see I was running out of ammo here because ammo is so expensive on OP10, so I often employed a super secret strategy where you just go to normal mode to buy ammo, because, you know, I can't be bothered to farm chests and stuff to get ammo. But anyway, we take out the 3rd ambush commander, and now we just have one left. You can see he's got me cornered here. I'm below health gate, so I'm trying to be really careful. Again, this was very, very tough, and I do end up taking another down here. But fortunately, with the power of the Topnia, I was able to get back up, throw another grenade, and then swap over to my explosive relic. Finally, we are able to take out the last ambush commander. Then it's on to Boombringer. We sort of blow it up without looking. Kinda. They give us credit for it, so we'll take it. And then it's up to the top of the buzzard's nest up here. But first, we're gonna squash Mortar with the elevator. Oh, wow, that is a really in-depth squashing sound. Let's have a replay on that. Back up top, I'm bleeding out to a haha, just kidding, you'll never take me alive, you nomadic son bitch. Then we blow up some buzzards, making pretty good progress until one downs me. I keep trying to land my shots, but he just gets further away. And I end up dying. Haha, just kidding, you'll never take me alive, you buzzing son bitch. Finally done in Sawtooth Cauldron, we head to your mom's favorite place, the Boneyard, where appropriately there are several pumping stations we have to visit. Fortunately, I'm a master of Jukejitsu, so I'm able to easily work past this section. And we're up to the info stockade, where my Jukejitsu black belt holds up. Well, that was easy, now it's time for the final assault. Okay, for real, this is the last montage. Alright, and that brings us to the final stretch, Heroes Pass here. So, I said a couple of times already that I would name some of my favorite / the best non-uniques, so let me actually go ahead and do that. First of all, for those of you who might not know, the way the weapon system works in this game is what a weapon is called is determined by the barrel and the manufacturer. So for example, if you have a sniper rifle, if it has a Vladof barrel and it's manufactured by Vladof, that is always called a Droog. So most weapons, they have a fixed barrel. Now there are a small number of exceptions, such as the Snider. The Snider is a Malawan sniper with a Malawan barrel, although it can have a Dahl barrel. Now there is something called a matching barrel bonus in this game, which most of you probably know about the matching grip bonus, where you gain increased stats, reload speed and magazine size to be specific, if your manufacturer matches your grip. So a Jacobs grip, for example, on a Jacobs shotgun will have increased reload speed and magazine size. Well, there's also a matching barrel bonus. It's not for every weapon type, like I know some TDR weapons don't get it. But for example, a Malawan sniper with a Malawan barrel is called a Snider, and it gains a significant damage bonus. I think it's a 20% matching barrel bonus. And that's actually why the Snider is stronger than the Corinthian, which is a Jacobs barreled Malawan sniper. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I won't, you know, if you just know the names, you won't have to remember all that stuff, but I do think it's interesting to mention. The Droog as well, one of the best snipers, again, is a Vladof barreled Vladof sniper. Any Vladof sniper is going to be good, especially the Droog is obviously going to be the best. And for Zer0 especially, he's good with all of them, but they're generally very good. Malawan snipers in general are very good. Obviously the Snider is the best. The Rakel is also very good. For shotguns, basically any shotgun that has 4 barrels, which is the Torg barrel, is going to be good. So that's stuff like the Quad, the Ravager, the Shotgun Supreme, Overkill, and the Development. So all that kind of stuff is good. Plasma Caster is really good. Topnia is really good. Derp, I think that's a non-unique Torg launcher, that's very good as well. So there's a ton of great non-uniques. The Anarchist, that is a Vladof pistol with a Vladof barrel. The Synergy, that is a Hyperion pistol with a Vladof barrel. For good non-unique assault rifles, the Gatling gun is my personal favorite. The Dahl minigun is good as well. Some people like the Spitter. For non-unique SMGs, I'm not really sure other than the Plasma Caster. If you guys know of any, you can let me know. Plasma Caster is really the only good non-unique SMG I can think of off the top of my head. I haven't really tried the other ones. But we're about through Heroes Pass here. I clear out some of these enemies and then I break out my black belt in Juke Jitsu, and then we'll head on to Jack and the Warrior. And here we are with the Warrior. I like him as a boss, especially visually. He's really interesting visually. I wish there was an explanation for why we're able to take him out so easily. He's supposed to be this world destroyer, and we just kind of roll up and beat him pretty easily. You know, they could have said that maybe he was in a weakened state where he was just now awakened or something. But regardless, visually he is very interesting. The fight is, I mean, I don't really like the use of immunity phases. I think it's an appropriately difficult fight for the final boss, and there's a lot of opportunities for second wins and stuff, so it's not that difficult as long as you're patient. If you try to rush it, you can end up getting in a lot of trouble in this fight. Now, those of you keeping count may have noticed that I only used one of my Critical Ascension pre-stacking lifelines. So I'll go ahead and use the other one, and then I was able to actually complete the run without even having to use all 3 of them. I'll just, with this run with the Warrior here, that will only be the second one I used. But anyway, if you try to rush this fight, you can get into some trouble, but if you just stay patient, just deal your damage as you can, get your second wins when you get down, you'll be just fine. So I do go ahead and drop my Sniper Heart of the Ancients so I can equip it after I get my stacks of Critical Ascension. I let that loader down me, and then it's easy to stack off the Chrysalisks here. I actually end up forgetting about the Sniper Heart, and I just used the Stockpile Relic, which was limiting my damage, you know. Not having access to Death Blossom was actually a very big deal. It would have helped me out in a lot of situations like this, such as being able to Death Mark the Warrior. I'm not sure if the Warrior can be slagged, but I didn't want to risk it anyway. Yeah, this challenge run was not as difficult as I expected. Like I said, I wanted to do this to show that when you follow good fundamentals, when you're good at the game, Ultimate Vault Hunter mode and even OP levels are really not that hard. I have extreme tastes, I know that, and I always make sure to say that. So the next Borderlands game, it doesn't have to be as extreme as OP10 at max difficulty. I would prefer something at least harder than base UVHM. I just want something that incentivizes me to use all the tools at my disposal. And a lot of the other Borderlands games, even at max difficulty, they just don't do that. Honestly, the way Borderlands 3 did things is not my favorite, but I can tolerate it. Like, even at max difficulty, most of Borderlands 3 is pretty easy, but it kind of made up for it by having a lot of raid level content. If Borderlands players are going to insist on playing on difficulty modes that they don't enjoy because they have fragile egos, that's a compromise that I'm okay with. Again, I prefer Borderlands 2's method, where the whole game is very challenging at the max difficulty, but I can live with the Borderlands 3 system. But yeah, guys, I may make a UVHM guide eventually, but the main rules you want to follow to do well on the harder modes are slag, match elements, manage your health, know how to build and play your character, and make use of cover. Also, I would throw in don't use underleveled gear because I see people do that all the time. And sorry for taking so long to get this video out, guys, and sorry for the content drought. I've just had a lot of IRL stuff going on. I'm going to be picking up the content again. I've got a ton of raid raid bossing videos coming with Ma and Axton, Digistruct Peak, builds, weapon reviews, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to start streaming a lot. Like I said, I really appreciate the support. If you want to support me more, I did start the membership thing, which is where you can pay a little bit of money to gain access to certain perks. The third tier is called Veracitous Slayers. So if you're in that, you can say, hey, I'm a Veracitous Slayer, and it wouldn't be a lie. It might be kind of silly to start that whenever my channel is still so small, but I'm the type of person, if I put something off, I'll end up just not ever getting around to it. So I did just want to go ahead and take care of it. Like I said, guys, either way, I do really appreciate the support. Got a ton of content coming. And there is OP10 beat with no slag, no red text gear, and no bar. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you do want to become a member, you can check the description to join, or just check my channel. Either way, I do hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, guys.